Okay then, we are back. Welcome folks. It's time to pick up with the next case in the Great Ace Attorney. Give it a second to get into the game itself, but as part of a recap, Susato-san has left to return to Japan because her father has fallen ill. He's probably been poisoned or something, if I know anything about how these games work. But she's headed back to Japan, which means our final case in this game will be heading back. We'll be heading into court without our judicial assistant. In the meantime, we just have to do our best to help Gina. Oh, I should probably actually read this. When I awoke the following morning, Susato-san was already gone. Outside the window, the rain came down in sheets. And so began an even longer day than the last, one that I would remember for the rest of my days. "17th April, 9:32 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Good morning, Gina. I'm determined to prove your innocence today. I'm sure we can do it. So where's your friend then? Sorry? You know, her in the fancy dress. Susato, or whatever you say it. I don't know. Miss Susato had to leave early this morning. She was already gone by the time I woke up. You alright with that, are you? Forget about me if you like. Go and see her off. It's fine. It's not as though Miss Susato and I won't meet again one day. Even so. But you, Gina, you only get one chance. This trial today is all we have. Good morning, you two. Aw, she brought the cat. How are you feeling, Ginny? Did you manage to sleep? Hi, Wagga hi. Your input is appreciated. Iris, what are you doing here? What do you mean? When a friend is in need, we show our support. Okay, well, while we're here, let's take a second and look back through the court record, recap what happened last time. So, Pop Windabank here, the pawnbroker that lives in the shop next door to us, was murdered in the night. Gina was found in the room with him, unconscious, holding a gun. And so she is the suspect. This guy is involved somehow, probably with the people who actually did it. Susato has gone back to Japan by now. Her train was apparently leaving at 4 a.m., which means she didn't really sleep at all. Herlock Sholmes has been shot, but I kind of expect that he'll show up in court at some point today. We haven't been able to go and see him. Iris is just kind of glad that Herlock is alive and recovering. And Tobias Gregson has been present. Male Strongheart, not so much. So that's the people. And then, of course, we have our evidence. We've got 2 pawnbroker tickets that are slightly different images that are done on slightly different images of cats. They're slightly different so that they can be viewed using a stereoscope, that's the word. I don't know why I still have the representation papers in here. We have various blood samples, 2 of which we've been able to identify, one from the victim, and one from the victim 2 cases ago. Welcome to the stream, Rafkin. They've been identified using some anime game magic. Iris has a gun that she shoots at the blood, and it turns a different color for every person, which means we can distinguish them. So we found thrice-fired Mason's blood there, as well as all over Gina's coat, which used to belong to... what's his face? The guy we defended. Magnus McGilded. We also have the manuscript of Iris's story, The Hound of the Baskervilles, which is the reason that Gina was in the back room in the first place. She broke in there to see if this was still present. And we have the notes that Miss Susato produced about the McGilded case from 2 months ago, which will likely be helpful at some point, because it does seem like all of these things are tangled up with that case. Victim found deceased on the last scheduled omnibus of the day after a stab wound to the abdomen. Details of victim: name Mason Milverton, occupation brickmaker, domicile East End of London. Trial summary: defendant Magnus McGilded, prosecuting attorney Lord Baron Van Zeeks, defense attorney Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Conviction was assured with 3 eyewitness testimonies. However, a surprise 4th witness's testimony resulted in acquittal due to insufficient evidence. So not much detail there, but I'm sure it'll come up. I hope I said hi to Rafkin. If I didn't, hi. What do you mean? When a friend is in need, we show our support. Isn't that right, Waggy? Thank you, Wagahai. Ah, Waggy! Great way to show your support, kitty. Let him have a nose round. What on can it do? Oh, that reminds me. I bought a paper on the way here. Now, would you like the good news or the bad news? What do you say, Runo? Ginny? I mean, obviously we're going to be up against Lord Van Zeeks again. Oh, well, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first. Nah, always take the good news first. You might not live to hear the bad. Yes, that question always gives away people's personalities. Let's not go there. Alright then, I'll give you the bad news first. A record amount of rain has fallen this morning, and carriages all over the capital are struggling to move. Huh? The bad news was a weather report. So I hope that Susie made her train to Dover, and that the train isn't delayed on its way to the port. Gosh, yeah. Alright then, so what's the good news? Well, the rain is forecast to subside this afternoon. So even if the train is delayed, it should be able to make up the time later. Well, that is good news, isn't it? I couldn't give a monkeys, really. If only all good news cancelled out the bad. And look, the trial has made the headlines too. Pawnbroker perishes in pick purse plunder, see? How'd you like that? Well, let them say what they want. See if I care. I can't because you're covering your face. Don't worry, Bruno will show everyone that this headline is nonsense. I will. And then in tomorrow's papers, the headlines will be Discharged Diver is Dauntless Do-Gooder. Isn't that right, Bruno? Let's leave it to them to come up with the headlines. Honestly, I'm not sure the alliterations are the right tactic. Oh, yes, let's hope so. Of course they will. I have absolute faith in you. How was that? I was trying to sound like Susie. Did it work? Did it? It's like she was still here. Today's paper. Okay, well, we definitely want to look at that momentarily. Good luck then, Runo. I'll do what I can. So I'm sure that... So, the place had a security system. So I'm sure that those pictures will be coming up in the trial today. And I imagine that we'll have to fight tooth and nail to actually get them to bring them in so that we can see the details that we need to. Pawnbroker perishes in pick-purse plunder. How awful. For Ginny, I mean. For the pawnbroker, too. Tomorrow's headline will be... No, I'm not going to repeat that. Yes, something like that. If possible, I'd like to go even bigger. Bigger? How? Proud pickpocket protects planet post-trial, perhaps. Protects planet? Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow now. It's going to be so great. Alright, time to get to the part that's actually going to be relevant to the case. There's a sensational story lower down on the front page as well. Look. Ministry Mole? Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice? For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has her finger on the pulse of the world news. It's about secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they're being intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted? But how'd somebody be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with three different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career, Runa? No, of course not. I wonder. Perhaps this is what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday. Yes, it could be, and it could explain why he has Gregsy running from pillar to post at the moment. Yep, there we go. We've updated the item in the court record. So now it talks about government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies. Alright, let's see what we can do with this crud. Obviously, I don't know the law like Susie does, but still. I'll be by your side the whole time, giving you moral support and encouragement. I'm not sure that big thing is as comforting as you think it is, to be honest, but thank you, Iris. That's very kind of you. Oh, yeah, Iris? Yes, Jin? Well, I was wondering is all, about Sholmes. Did they fix him up alright? Yes, the operation was a great success, but Hurley still hasn't come around yet. Eh? I've asked a friend of mine at Scotland Yard to send a telegram as soon as he wakes up. I'm sure Gregson will let us know the moment there's news. Oh, right. No Susato-san and no Mr. Sholmes. Well, to be fair, Mr. Sholmes has never been in court with us. It's not really his arena. It's all down to me today, to prove that Gina is innocent of this crime. Miss Gina Lestrade, counsel for the defense, the trial is about to begin. Please make your way into the courtroom. It's time then. Yes, let's go, Gina. Iris. Lead the way, Runa. Poor Gina. She's trying to put on a brave face, but I can tell she's worried and scared. I have to believe in her from start to finish. That's the weapon that will secure our victory here. If I learned anything from my great friend, it's that. Alright, Kazuma. Let's do this. April 17th, 10 a.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session.
It's been a minute. I think it's been like 3 streams or so. I guess the last 2 full streams, we didn't get any of this voice.
This trial shall determine the guilt or innocence of Miss Gina Lestrade. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready. Really, Ryu? Come on, just stop with the wide-eyed stuff. Like, yes, you're nervous, but you've got a job to do and you've been here before.
Lord Van Zieks. My lord? Remind me, how many years ago was it that you withdrew from the public prosecution service?
It was some 5 years ago, my lord.
Yes, and 2 months ago you resurfaced somewhat unexpectedly. And here you are again today. Are there some circumstances of which the court should be aware that have led to this erratic behavior? In what one might describe as your former life 5 years past, you dealt exclusively in matters concerned with the highest echelons of society and government.
Really?
Yet today you choose to try a simple case of burglary and murder. I confess I find it more than a little befuddling, counsel.
There are 2 types of person I cannot abide. Firstly, those wealthy scoundrels who hide behind the mask of philanthropy to cheat the public at large. He means Mr. McGilded, who you defended against the Reaper 2 months ago. Yes, I just about managed to work that out, thank you. Magnus McGilded. If I'd known what a monster he was, I never would have defended him. And secondly, even more loathsome, those wily scoundrels who masquerade as allies, only to effect total betrayal in the final hour. In other words, the confidence tricksters from those tiny islands in the Far East, the Nipponese. I am of course declaring open racism here, but we're going to ignore it because of the time period. What? Did he really just say that? He needs you now, Runa. I actually managed to work that out too. Thank you, Iris. Total betrayal? What are you talking about? That torrid look of hatred in Lord Van Ziek's eyes. Was that directed solely at me, or was he talking about all Japanese people? I'd like to think it was directed solely at you, and he's just trying to be broad, because otherwise, that's a really bizarre level of... that's a really bizarre level of hatred to base on such a small sample size.
An alarmingly scathing explanation, Lord Van Zieks. Still, the judiciary welcomes the return of the so-called Reaper of the Bailey, feared by all London's malefactors.
Your lordship is too kind.
Now, jurors, the 6 of you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. I wonder how many of you have already been found guilty of murder previously, as we don't seem to have any sort of vetting process for jurors.
Hang on a sec. I want y'all to take a look at this real quick here. In fact, for once, I'm going to turn on capture cursor so I can do some pointing here. Okay. Y'all, here. I'm circling my mouse over the judge, so keep an eye on it there. First of all, husband of the lady responsible for the last case. Literally just who was a witness in the last case himself as well. A former juror from the McGilded trial. Never seen this guy before in our life. A juror from the last trial, except now he's dressed up as a doctor, which seems a little strange. I think another juror from the McGilded trial, and literally an international criminal that we found out about in episode 2. Like, how is he even an option here? He's not a British citizen, he's Russian. Like, how? How is this what's happening?
Former lieutenant in the British Army here. Don't you know, chaps like me were born ready.
Oh.
Are you ready to hear the evidence placed before you and determine the guilt or innocence of the defendant? Former lieutenant in the British Army here. Don't you know, chaps like me were born ready. Born ready.
Clean crockery, clean cutlery, and a clean conscience. His lordship's motto is very appropriate here, I think. I'm the only one here who doesn't have an obvious conflict of interest. Everything will be stereoscopic in the future. Absolutely, absolutely everything, and I'm ready for it.
I don't understand it. I can't have left it in there. It's not possible, but could I have?
Dude, you can't have dropped your phone in someone while doing surgery. They haven't been invented yet. You would have had to carry a fairly large apparatus into the surgery room, and it would not fit in anyone from your time period. Women indispensable in society. Stop. Female-centric future awaits. Stop.
Good day. I'm visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please.
I do like his mouse, though. Like, again, obvious conflict of interest given that he is an international terrorist. But I like his mouse. It's very round, and its nose has a cute little twitch there. Welcome to the stream, B. Is something wrong, Runo? Oh, not exactly, it's just... I'm fairly sure I recognize these jurors. Almost all of them, in fact. Really? Funny coincidences like that do happen from time to time, don't they? But it is quite strange. The jurors are chosen at random from London's 6 million inhabitants, you know? So I've been led to believe, but something tells me I'm being duped. Well, you see, Ryu... Yes, its tail is very cute as well. You see, Ryu, the thing is... It did save the animators a lot of time and money to just have to animate, like, 10 jurors instead of the full 18 that we would have needed for 3 cases.
Very well. Now, Lord Van Zeeks. The court calls upon the prosecution to introduce the facts of the case. As you wish, my lord. Allow me to begin with a word of warning to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. In short, there has never been a more self-evident case of cold-blooded murder. The victim, Mr. Pop Windybank, a proprietor of a pawn shop on Baker Street, was shot from behind and died instantly. The prosecution presents this photographic print of the crime scene.
Why do they insist on having such narrow angles on their pictures?
As the court will observe, there is a single bullet wound just below the gentleman's left shoulder. The evidence suggests the bullet pierced the man's heart, resulting in near instant death. Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory.
What's that supposed to tell us?
It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. Someone like the accused, you might say.
Oh.
The prosecution wishes to present the autopsy report and crime scene photograph as evidence, my lord. Indeed, the court accepts. Hand them to the bailiff, please.
The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. Prepared by Scotland Yard, confirms instant death to a single bullet wound from the back, no other signs of trauma. Is it not going to tell us where the bullet exited? Because he left a lot of blood and it wasn't spilling from his back onto the floor, which means the bullet exited. Oh, fine, I'll fix my posture. Thank you, B. Single bullet wound in the man's back.
I now ask the court to turn its attention to this plan of the establishment where the incident occurred.
Okay, let's take a moment before he gets into this and take a look at those things. Name, occupation, time of death between 1 and 1:30 a.m. Reporting party, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Post-mortem findings, single bullet wound in the upper half of victim's back, no other visible signs of trauma. Instant death from a post-anterior bullet wound to the heart. The bullet entered the body from the back on a gently rising diagonal trajectory. So this does hold with my guess about what happened, which is that he was shot while holding the door by someone who just opened up the flap that can be used to look through it. Shows a single bullet wound in the man's back. We can see his blood, which is definitely coming from underneath him, meaning the bullet did exit his body from the front. Bullet came in through the back and out through the front. We can pretty obviously see the gunpowder residue around it, meaning he was shot from point blank. And that's about what we have so far.
The proprietor was found in the storeroom where he kept articles pawned to him. A windowless room with a single point of entry, a door to the main shop that was found locked. In the sealed chamber, there were only 2 persons present. The victim, Mr. Windybank, and the accused. It may further interest the court to know that when the accused was discovered at the scene, she had in her hand the gun used to fire the fatal bullet.
See, nowadays that really wouldn't hold up, because they would have looked at her hand and seen that there was no gunpowder residue on it, meaning meaning there's no way that she personally fired it. Also, nowadays, there's ballistic analysis that they would use to compare the bullet to the gun that it supposedly came from. Okay, let's see. Well, that's it then, isn't it? Nothing more to say. Isn't that grubby little girl a pickpocket anyway? She's one of those filthy drabs that live in the slums in the East End. Oh well, it was only a matter of time before she got blood on her hands then. What are the juries waiting for? The girl's guilty. Objection! We can't jump to conclusions here. We mustn't assume her guilt because of what she has to do to survive. She is only on trial for the crime of... She is strictly on trial for the accused crime of murder. Anything else, unless it is shown to be relevant to the case, cannot be part of the decision-making process. One sec while I turn on the fan.
My learned Nipponese friend, it is you who mustn't jump to conclusions. The prosecution has barely begun presenting its case. Conveniently, this appalling act of murder did not go unobserved. There were witnesses. Good gracious! After their testimony, this girl's true nature will be exposed. Pitiful pickpurse or cold-hearted killer. Here's to establishing the truth.
You know, I do appreciate that smirk she had on. I do think she has faith in us, which is nice.
The court will take the floor plan and firearm into evidence. Hand them to the bailiff, please, Lord Van Zeeks. At once, my lord.
Crime scene floor plan. Plan of Windibank's pawnbrokery. The scene of the crime shows the relative positions of the main shop and rear storeroom. And Windibank's revolver. A gun belonging to the victim, Mr. Windibank, that Gina was holding when she was found unconscious. There are signs of a single discharge. This isn't good. I feel like the mood in here has turned very gloomy all of a sudden. Luna? I think that's because it has. Jeez, I want that outfit in Elden Ring. Like, just give me that outfit in so many other games. It is so freaking classy.
Let us begin. Bring forth the witnesses to the foul murder of Pop Windibank on 16th April of this year.
So yeah, we're just not going to question the fact that these are criminals who have broken into the shop.
Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court.
Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is, baddie. Professional baddie. Professional baddie. Name's Ringo Skulkin. Occupation's, same as him.
Tobias Gregson, Scotland Yard Inspector.
That's right, we're what they call... Hang on. Well, no, we'll go for another second before we check out the stuff that was just added to the court record. The three Skulkin brothers. Congrats, Gregson, you just joined a gang.
What you looking at me like that for? Don't lump me in with you lot.
God blimey, that's cold. Don't you know what we got going for? What we're going through? It's our older bruv. Lost contact with him, we have. So we're scouring every shady corner of the capital. And then last night we come across you, the very spit of the bloke. Ain't that right, Ringo? And Nash, he is. The very spit of him. So we decided then and there what we was going to do. We was going to call you Big Bruv Sulky.
Come on, leave it out, you two.
Sulky Skulkin, and that's before he's run out of chips.
Well then, Inspector Sulky Gregson. Begging your pardon, my lord, but the name's Tobias. What I would like to know, Inspector, is what you are doing in the witness stand. The skulking brothers are currently under arrest, my lord, on suspicion of theft. Thieves, are they, these three? No, my lord, begging your pardon, but please don't lump me in with this lot. 2 nights ago, these brothers oh, I was trying to adjust my mic quietly, but that clearly did not work. These 2 brothers illegally entered an establishment with intent to burgle. And in the course of their nefarious activities, they became embroiled in a far more sinister crime. By Jove, you mean to say, what an extraordinary coincidence.
Indeed, my lord. While attempting to burglarize the pawnbrokery, they witnessed its proprietor's murder.
Horror, horror.
These various trespasses of these brothers is not the subject of today's proceedings, even though they are far more likely to have killed a man than a little girl. Though they will naturally face trial in the very near future.
With your lordship's permission, I'd like to remain in the stand to keep these gents on the straight and narrow. Of course, Inspector. Skeptical as I am about the caliber of these witnesses, I will permit them to take the stand.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you will now testify before the court. Describe the events of the night in question, and what exactly you saw.
Happy to.
Because a skulkin's never skulkin'. Somehow I'm not convinced. I think that might be your main pastime.
Get out of it.
Alright. Well, after we've gotten through all that, let's drop a save and then look at stuff in the court record before we get into the testimony. This is a lot of evidence that's building up quickly. They're presenting it much more rapidly than they normally do, which in my opinion is a good thing because it gives us more ammo to work with. Okay, so we have this place. Important thing to note, yesterday when we were inspecting the place, right up here, there was a calendar with a bullet in it and a blood spatter across it. Meaning someone else was shot there that night. This is Mr. Windibank. This is Gina. That is certain. Because that's how we found the scene. Also, this door is the singular access point to the storeroom, and it has a little cubby door in it that can be opened to look through. I imagine other details of this layout will be important. I think a big thing will be establishing who passed where. Also, there was a little mark on the floor here that was never fully explained. I think it might have been broken glass from the lamp that sits on this table, but we can't be sure because the game didn't let us examine it. Alright now, let's take a look at the gun. So it does seem like there's only one part of this that we can examine, and that is the barrel. This is Mr. Windibank's gun. The cylinder is completely empty. Mr. Windibank always used to keep his gun to hand on his shop counter. Yes, but only ever with a single bullet loaded, I understand. That's right, to keep all the pawned articles that were in his care safe. But his one bullet was fired that night, and the poor man lost his life. Was he protecting his shop, I wonder? Trying to keep the articles safe? think that's all we've got for now. We can't examine the trigger, the grip. Not seeing any distinguishing markings really anywhere. We was walking down Baker Street in the small hours, and the gaff door was ajar, see? It was like some kind of sign begging for us to go in, it was. But once we got inside, cor blimey lummy, we heard a gunshot from the back room. We went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside. We never done nothing, Governor. We never took nothing. We just left after that nice and quiet. Okay, so first of all, you shot Mr. Sholmes. That isn't even in question.
A terrible coincidence it would seem. At the precise moment these miscreants entered the property, an even more sinister crime was afoot. A witness's testimony is consistent with the crime scene in every detail, because I made sure that they would give a vague testimony that would touch on none of the details. The door providing access to the storeroom from the main shop was indeed locked from the inside, and within only the victim and the accused were found. I must say it does appear to be an overwhelmingly simple case. Still, the defense may cross-examine the witnesses now, of course. Counsel, if you please. Counsel?
Yes. What's the matter, Runo? Sorry, he's nervous without Susato-san here. I was just stunned into silence for a minute by the blatant lies being told by the pair in the stand. I know that it's all nonsense because I saw it with my own eyes. I'll just have to expose their testimony for the pack of lies it is. I mean, the obvious thing is that they claim to have not done anything when they shot Mr. Sholmes. Like some kind of sign begging for us to go in, it was. But once we got inside, blah blah blah. We went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside. Never done nothing, never took nothing, we just left after that nice and quiet. So this is the most blatant lie of the whole thing, which means we're going to save and then start pressing.
Hold it!
You didn't do or take anything. Is that your story? Well, it was bedlam soon as, wasn't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. So with no time to take your hands out of your pockets, you just left nice and quietly, you say? That's right, Governor. Nothing we hate more than violence. Peace-loving nibblers we are, not bludgers. We are, Nash, we are. Never even pulled me dukes out me lucky lockets. So you'd clearly like us to believe... Eh? Come again? As you fled from the pawnbrokers that night, did you not run into anyone else? And did you not fire a gun at that person?
Saints alive, they fired a gun, you say? Ah. Blimey, Governor.
You ain't telling us it was you in the doorway. It was. And it was my friend you shot. Why the bleeding Nora? Didn't you mention that before? You were armed with a gun. And as you fled the scene, you fired that gun at London's greatest detective, Herlock Sholmes. They shot the great Mr. Sholmes? I did hear that, actually. There was a rumor he'd been rushed to the hospital. The great Sholmes? That's beyond the pale.
On the night in question, this pair were arrested by the police within minutes of the discovery of the crime scene. Their suspicious countenance rapidly gave them away. And then searched. A firearm was indeed found in their possession. Furthermore, the barrel shows signs of a shot
having been fired from it. The prosecution invites his lordship to examine the firearm recovered from these brothers.
Yes, indeed. Remnants of powder around the muzzle, as you say, counsel.
See, I like pressing on that first, because it definitely shores up our side of things before things start to fall apart.
The court will hold this weapon as evidence.
Skulkin Brothers' gun has been entered into the court record. There are signs that a single round was fired, so they only had one gun between them? Now, my learned Nipponese friend. Yes? Here's to you successfully presenting the evidence. For yes, there are telltale signs of spent powder on the gun, and the single bullet missing from the cylinder. But the prosecution demands evidence that it was fired at the scene of the crime, under scrutiny of this trial.
Objection.
Well, I don't need... I don't need evidence, because I was there.
Objection.
However, the rest of us in this courtroom are not. If the defense fails to provide evidence in support of its rash claim, we shall have no choice but to toast your incompetence and move on. Okay, so before we get any further, I'm going to examine the gun. So, there's ammunition still loaded in 5 of this revolver's 6 cylinders. Yes, which tells us that only a single shot has been fired from it. Exactly. The bullet that hit Hurley, in fact, isn't it? Yes, it happened almost as soon as we walked in through Windibank's door. Unless it was Gina who shot Hurley. I wonder. Welcome to the stream, bro. No, because let's consider the possibility here. The brothers shoot the dude through the door thinking that they would get a chance, but then they get interrupted, start making a break for it, and Gina fires from inside there. Either that or there was another gun. Those are the options. As I see them, anyway. Anyway, we do definitely have evidence that a second bullet was fired in our blood samples because of this. Pawnbroker's ticket. Windibank storeroom. Evidence that these two fired that gun before they left Windibank's that night.
The court demands that all claims are affirmed with clear proof. What evidence shows that these witnesses unloaded a firearm in the pawnbroker's shop that night?
As always, save before presenting.
Take that!
The evidence is in this portfolio.
What on earth have you there, counsel?
During the course of our investigations, we discovered a number of bloodstains. Not trusting the police to do the job they're trained to do, how arrogantly Nipponese of you. Well, you haven't marked the bloodstains on the map, so I've got to present my own evidence because you aren't presenting it. Well, anyway, we analyzed all the blood samples we found and recorded the results in this portfolio.
And you claim to have evidence the court is demanding therein.
Yes, my lord.
No more dallying then, counsel. Present the pertinent evidence at once. What do you have in your portfolio that proves these witnesses unloaded a firearm at the scene?
I'm pretty sure it has to be this one. But obviously the one that they really did was that.
Take that!
What is that? Explain.
It's a photographic print taken at Windibank's pawnbrokery on the day of the incident.
From the scene of the crime, is it? Is that a bullet hole? And if my eyes do not deceive me, it appears the bullet is still lodged there.
Yes, as your lordship noticed, the bullet pierced Mr. Windibank's calendar. Oh, or there's the other option. So, hypothetically, what if Windibank was the first one to fire a shot when he saw intruders? He fired it at these two, potentially even hitting one of them, and it passed through them and hit the wall. And that was why his gun was missing a bullet. Miss Lestrade didn't manage to... couldn't use the gun because it was out of bullets, which is why she was holding it but didn't shoot it at anyone. Meanwhile, again, they fired a shot through the little cubby while these two had barricaded themselves in there. The bullet that pierced Mr. Windibank's calendar. The bullet pierced Mr. Windibank's calendar. The date shown being the 16th of April, the very day of the pawnbroker's death.
The incident occurred at 1 hour after midnight, but this indicates that a separate shot had been fired sometime after the calendar had been set to the 16th.
That's right. And now, while it isn't irrefutable, the defense believes this is credible evidence that the witnesses did fire a round from their gun in the pawnbrokers that night. We cannot, at this time, state which bullet came from their gun, however.
Or, how does the prosecution stand, Lord Van Zieks?
If that is the direction my learned friend wishes to take, the prosecution has no objection. What? But you'll forgive me for flinging my hallowed chalice aside in disgust at the repugnancy it exposes. Yes, on the night in question, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery illegally. And like the bold baddies they claimed to be, opened fire on the new arrivals before fleeing back into the street. Yeah, I think there's got to be a third gun there. I think there has to be 3. Because I'm counting 3 shots. Yeah, there absolutely has to be 3. 1 into Pop, 1 into the wall, 1 into Mr. Sholmes. I wish we had the medical report from Mr. Sholmes' surgery.
Eh? Take it easy there, Governor. You're gonna land us in the soup. We had a deal. You weren't going to get into them details.
Tell him, Sulky. Set the bug straight. I have nothing to add. So he knew, did he? Van Zieks knew their testimony would almost certainly expose the extent of their crimes. It would seem now that I owe my learned Nipponese friend a word of gratitude. What do you mean? What I mean is that you have helpfully confirmed an important fact.
To what fact do you refer, Lord Van Zieks?
He's about to argue that the shot that they fired is the one that's in the wall, and therefore they can't have been the ones to shoot what's-his-face? Windibank. As has been established, at the point of their arrest, a single shot had been fired from the brother's gun. However, if that shot found its target in Mr. Sholmes, then clearly these witnesses cannot be accused of the fatal shooting of the proprietor and victim.
In other words, these two men have no material connection to the murder of Mr. Windibank at all.
So that's it.
That's it. We didn't have nothing to do with it. We didn't, Ash. We did. We did. That's what I reckon. Our crimes include unlawful entry, intent to steal, perjury, and let us not forget, attempted murder.
Quite a catalogue, eh, fellas?
Ah, we're in for it now, bruv. Now then, let us take a moment to consider the aforementioned great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. It would seem the man patronized the pawnbrokers in question somewhat regularly.
Where's he going with this?
Mr. Sholmes appears to take pleasure in tinkering with eccentric machinery.
Eccentric says who? Not me. Don't give me that look.
He installed a pair of machines like this one in the victim's shop.
Oh. That's one of Hurley's red-handed recorders.
What is that, Counsel? It has the appearance of a photographic contraption. As your lordship has surmised, it is indeed a camera attached to a small timing device.
Every half an hour it automatically photographs the interior of the establishment. The idea being that if a thief were to break into the shop, he would be caught red-handed.
The prosecution has obtained the photographs taken by the device on the night in question.
Do we get the whole portfolio? Because if so, gimme, gimme, gimme.
As the courtroom will observe, copious identical prints are produced in a quite desultory fashion. Rather prodigal, I feel. In fact, there are 2 such devices in the victim's shop, my lord. If I may refer the court to the plan of the premises, their respective positions are here and here. You say these cameras produce a print every half hour. I'm afraid I fail to see how that would help if the anticipated thief conducted his activities in one of the many 30-minute intervals. One can only pray that the would-be criminal lingers, my lord. On the night in question, the witnesses currently in the stand were not caught on camera. That's a bit of fried truck, ain't it, bruv? Fried tech, ain't it, bruv? Lady Luck loves a skulking. Witnesses, at what time did your trespassing begin? Must have been just after 1, right, bruv? Must have been, Nash, must have been. Just gone 1. In which case, minutes before these brothers entered the establishment. What scene might we expect to see within the shop? Let us examine the evidence. Good lord!
Yeah, that is a concerning shot, I will admit.
It's the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Yeah, that's trouble.
As the court can clearly see, the accused is pictured, gun in hand, facing the victim over the shop counter, no doubt coercing the proprietor to open the door to his storeroom.
I wonder if that's actually what she did, because I'm not going to put that past her. I just know she didn't kill the man.
Quite. One can only too easily imagine the events that unfolded. The court will take this photographic print as evidence, if you please, counsel.
Okay. Photograph taken by the red-handed recorder, showing the scene a short time before the murder took place. Now, before you start making noises, Ryu, let's go ahead and take a look here. Okay, so we can't turn this around, so there's nothing on the back. Until we have the other relevant photos to compare it to, we're not going to get much out of this. I really thought that they were going to give us the full portfolio. I was looking forward to it. I don't believe it. Ginny.
In short, the accused is the only person who could possibly have killed Mr. Windibank.
Ah!
I say, my lord, wonder if I might put in a word at this point? Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Took a bally bullet to the knee in the Battle of May 1880, don't you know? Decorated for it and all, but forced to retire from service, sadly. Of course, a medal can never outshine the exploits of chaps like us on the battlefield. Yes, Mr. Foreman, and what exactly is your point? Carried on the battlefield, the battle after retirement, you see. The battle of daily life, if you like. And here I am now, leading this small squadron. 6 men, all good and true. We'll all go down together, you mark my words. One for all, and all for one.
The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached agreement, have they? Is that what we are to understand?
Well, Mr. Foreman, is that correct?
Yeah, these jurors are really terrible. They always jump in before the story is even fully told. Like, you'd at least think they would recognize that someone's life is in their hands and give the matter a full consideration before they try and escape, by just declaring someone guilty and sending them off to the gallows.
In a manner of speaking, yes. That is the Garridubs. In a manner of speaking, yes, that is the Garridub squadron's position, sir.
What? No, it's too soon to make a judgment here.
Status report for the court, men, on the double.
His lordship insists on promptitude at all times, and that goes for making decisions too. I think you'll find the truth is as clear as day now. I could reach out and touch it.
I wouldn't have left it in there, I just wouldn't. But in all honesty, I can't actually remember.
Situation clear. Stop. No room for doubt. Stop. Truth now in denial. Stop.
I am very sorry for brother. I am very sorry for brothers. They are unlucky. Very well. I now call upon each member of the jury to state his or her leaning in this matter. Announce your considered verdicts to the court.
Guilty.
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 Alright, time for a summation examination.
It does indeed appear that the jury is unanimous in its leaning already.
That photograph must be the definitive evidence that Gregson mentioned. But Ginny didn't shoot him. No, of course not. My lord, the defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination.
Very well, the court grants permission. So, you refuse to admit defeat again. How unsurprising.
What can I say? I'm frickin' predictable.
We shall proceed with the summation examination immediately. Mr. Foreman, are all members of the jury ready? Absolutely, sir. Always ready for action, my chaps. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Judicial findings.
All the evidence clearly points the finger of guilt to this young pickpocketian.
As a housemaid, I should like to see all filthy eyesores promptly and rigorously eliminated. I think you'll find that if you look at that photograph in stereo, the truth will just pop out.
If I have left it in there, I should think there'll be repercussions by now.
Mind made up. Stop. Global radio transmission of verdict to follow. Stop.
In motherland, we say never judge by clothes, judge by head. I am convinced brothers are innocent. I am convinced brothers are innocent. I am convinced brothers are innocent.
I'm trying to distinguish the Transylvanian accent that I'm trying to do for Lord Van Zeeks and the Russian accent that I'm trying to do for the terrorist. And it's not easy because my brain puts those relatively close as far as, like, mouth positions and such.
The circumstances of the crime and the evidence do indeed implicate the defendant rather comprehensively. The storeroom, locked from the inside, in which the victim and the accused were discovered alone, and in the accused's hand, the fatal revolver, the firing of which was heard by these witnesses. Not to mention this print. Take it from a chap who's seen action on the battlefield. That young girl's on the verge of pulling the bully trigger.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Sholmes. Oh dear, Hurley's cameras were supposed to help, not hinder.
I'm afraid I think you'll have an uphill struggle ahead of you.
Regina didn't shoot Mr. Windibank. Which means there's more to this situation than we've yet to see. Agreed. How do they know what I'm thinking? Oh, welcome to the stream, Lastborn.
You'll have the floor, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination. Examination.
Why is it suddenly turning out?
The summation examination. Examination.
The defense's rebuttal. So I think the obvious thing to do is press on the vague ones. See, he's the literal only one who is expressing a clear reason for why he's declaring her guilty. Thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. But she isn't even giving a reason. Polishing the bench, I see. Again. A maid's work is never done. Not a blemish must remain. What exactly do you mean by filthy eyesores? On my way to market for his lordship, I have to pass through the East End. The place is full of beggars, pickpursers, and crossmen, the scum of the earth. A little harsh, perhaps. Let me be plain. If it were up to me, all those back slums would be made spick and span, or eradicated. At least we have people like the great detective working to achieve these important goals. You're referring to Mr. Herlock Sholmes? That's right. I like to keep abreast of his exploits by reading Rant's magazine, in between my duties. He does wonders cleaning up London streets. In my opinion, he should be declared an honorary maid of the capital. Mr. Sholmes, a maid? It's really quite unforgivable. Gutter scum having the audacity to shoot our very greatest detective. Minor detail, it was the two brothers in the stand who shot Mr. Sholmes, not the defendant. A minor detail indeed. They're all gutter scum as far as I'm concerned. Well, it just might be an idea to get our facts straight anyway. Yes, all right. I shall amend my statement. His brothers are the scum of the earth. They should swing for shooting the great detective. I'm curious about this guy's statement. What do you mean, look at the photograph in stereo? Sorry, what? Don't you know? If you look at the photographic print normally, it looks as though the pickpocket girl is about to shoot the victim, obviously. There's no indication that the defendant ever fired the gun. All I'm saying is that if you look at the same print in stereo, it could reveal all sorts of new information. By any chance, are you a fan of stereoscopes? Oh, how did you know? Let's call it a lucky guess. It never gets old seeing the two prints merge into one before your eyes. It's extraordinary, it's captivating. It's the height of modernity. Of course. Oh yes, I think you'll find that the stereoscope is here to stay, giving us new perspectives we could only dream of before. It's the greatest invention the world has ever seen. If only it could give me a new perspective on this case, I might agree with you. I think it could if we could get him to present the other photo from the same moment.
Hold it!
This guy, what exactly have you been muttering about all this time, sir? You keep talking about having left something somewhere or something like that.
Ah, sorry. As you can probably tell, I'm a surgeon.
A surgeon? That totally passed me by.
Of course, people conducting surgery in this country aren't considered to be doctors, oh no. Even though me and my kind are at the forefront of medical science, the real brains in the field.
So, what is it that you think you've left behind?
Ah, well, it's a little embarrassing to be honest. You see, I was operating on someone yesterday. Standard thing, we went in through the abdomen. But when I'd finished the procedure, I couldn't find my scalpel anywhere.
What? Did he? Surely not.
Exactly, surely not, you say to yourself, don't you? Worrying, isn't it? That's what's been troubling me this whole time. Could I really have left my scalpel inside the fellow's belly? No, of course I couldn't. So, there you have it. Like I said, a little embarrassing, really.
That's one way of putting it. The other is manslaughter.
That's exactly my concern, and seeing as this case appears to be all but sewn up, I need to focus on trying to remember exactly what I've sewn up elsewhere. Now, I'm sure I made sure everything was back as it should be. Well, as sure as you can be without being sure.
I'm sure you need to be more sure.
Hold it!
Sorry, radio transmission? What do you mean? Are you from the Far East? Stop. Yes, from the Empire of Japan. All communications with Far Eastern nations used to take place by mail. Royal Mail steamers take more than a month to complete the journey. Ah, but now we have the electric telegram, so we can send messages using electrical signals. Thousands of miles of cables have been laid along the ocean beds, connecting the entire world. Thousands of miles of cable on the ocean bed. Makes my head hurt just thinking about it. You are well informed, young lady. But cables will soon become a thing of the past. Stop. And just when I was starting to catch up. Radio transmission is the future. Stop. Messages carried over airways to the four corners of the globe. Stop. Excitement rolling. Stop. Atmosphere electric. Stop. Right. Try not to wear out your fingers. Era of wireless telegraphy. Stop. Driving technological revolution. Stop. And people say inventions like the stereoscope are the height of technology. What utter piffle. I can't understand it, I really can't. They're just silly toys.
Excuse me.
Juror number 3, sorry to interrupt when you're obviously fuming, but... What? Do you perhaps have something to say about juror number 5's last remark? As if I couldn't guess? Oh, you bet I do. Say that again. Go on, I dare you. Goodness, are you talking to me? I think he just might be. Yep. You think stereoscopes are just toys, do you? Huh? Absolutely. I mean, really. A machine to view photographs in 3 dimensions? Why on earth would you not just use your eyes to look at the world around you? It's all 3-dimensional. What a great way to appease the man. Like, she has a point, but obviously we're talking about seeing something that already happened in 3 dimensions. No, I'm sorry. Stereoscopes are of no practical use at all. You just don't know. Pardon? I think you'll find that viewing a photograph through a stereoscope can unlock all sorts of possibilities. I'm obviously going to have to demonstrate. What sort of possibilities? Well, take a crime scene, for example. If you had a pair of photographs from a crime scene that you could view through a stereoscope, it could reveal hidden clues you'd never even noticed before. What? Have you got any, Runo? Any prints we could look at with a stereoscope? The thing is, I don't have any. Okay, we're going... I think I have an idea of how to proceed going forward here. And I don't think we have the proper evidence just yet. No, I don't think so. None spring to mind, anyway. Well, if you find any, we should definitely try it. I don't think we're just going to find prints of the crime scene lying around, you know. I suppose if we somehow find ourselves with some, it would be worth a go. So I think the ones that we can already pit against each other are this guy, who says he is convinced the brothers are innocent, and this girl, who says those brothers are the scum of the earth, and they should swing for shooting the great detective.
Objection!
Those two statements... Wait, what?
Oh, Lord. Counsel, explain yourself.
Oh my statement? Contradictory?
Mother Russia. Contradict.
Juror number 6, you've got the wrong end of the stick.
I do not have stick. I have mouse.
As juror number 2 said earlier, when the Skulkin brothers fled the scene on the night in question, they fired a shot from their revolver. Yes, they shot poor Mr. Sholmes in the abdomen, I understand. Surely you're not going to tell the court now that you didn't hear.
Abdomen.
Sir?
Sorry, my English is still learning.
You are telling the court you didn't hear.
Forgive me, I did not hear. I hear his word, abdomen, part of person's body containing stomach and other vital organs. If this is what you mean, you should say in plain English, I am Russian, not native speaker.
Who thought it was a good idea to let this man be on the jury again?
So, you are telling me these brothers who look like criminals are lying. They said before we never done nothing, but truth is they shot detective. Da, this is double negative.
Yes, that's exactly right. No, don't squish the mouse!
No! Lying is wrong, especially when lie is said by person who looks like criminal.
Coming from you, that seems surprisingly prejudiced.
This means, when they said we never took nothing, maybe it was also a big fat lie. Is this true?
Well, according to the police report, no stolen goods were found, so...
Enough, I trust no one now.
It's not the mouse's fault, though, sir.
I must see with own eyes. I must investigate crime scene myself.
I'm afraid that won't be Yes, it is, Runa. Easily. Sorry? With the prints from Hurley's red-handed recorder. Ah. If you compare the print that pictures Ginny and the next print from a half an hour later, you'll be able to see straight away if anything was taken or not. Cooey, Mr. Prosecutor.
Tut tut. Calling on the prosecution. Calling on the prosecution in the middle of a summation examination of all times. The print showing the accused threatening the victim after she broke into the shop. This is one. Following this, the victim and the accused moved into the store. Following this, the victim and the accused moved into the storeroom. Meanwhile, the Skulkin brothers entered the shop and summarily heard the fatal gunshot ring out. Sadly, none of these events were captured on the film. This is the print, produced by the camera half an hour later, after the brothers' flight.
So this was taken after Hurley was shot, then. As far as I can tell, nothing has been taken. That does seem to be the case. I can't notice anything that's obviously missing in the second print.
So, brothers who look like criminals told only one lie. They shot men, but they stole nothing.
It would seem so, yes.
Good.
No, not good.
You were right. I did not understand the situation. Now I know brothers have lied. I think it is very important to continue trial.
I love how the terrorist is the first person to give us a chance to continue. Hey, well done, Runa. The balance is shifting. It's a start, I suppose. There must be more in what these jurors are saying that I can use to expose the truth. If I can do that, I might just turn the situation to our favor still.
Thank you, counsel. Continue with the summation examination. And kindly hand that new photographic print to the bailiff to be filed as evidence.
Photograph taken by the red-handed recorder showing the scene after the murder had taken place. Another print in the court record. Wonder if we can make use of that.
In lake of lies are many dead fish. We must find truth. Therefore I say not guilty verdict.
Okay, so at some point we're going to have to press on her again. Okay, I'm going to save because we picked up new evidence. And then we'll press on him because he's the only person we haven't pressed on.
Hold it!
You're Mr. Natsume's landlord, Mr. Garadeb, aren't you? You really must stop meeting like this.
You're that lawyer chap. Well, there's a turn up for the books. Yes, rather a turbulent time we had back then.
Some extraordinary events took place at your house, that's for sure. Luckily, Mr. Sholmes and I were able to get to the bottom of it all. I think we did rather a lot for you, didn't we? I mean, we helped you escape that abusive wife of yours, didn't we? I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be suggesting that therefore you should change your leaning to not guilty or anything.
Can't be denied, I suppose. The curse of the Garadeb house was the talk of the town after that business. Lodgers moved out and I couldn't get a bully soul to take up the tenancies. Oh. I haven't had the heart to break the news to Joni yet. Bad enough that old girl's clapped up. Yes, can't be denied, you did do rather a lot, but not for us, that's for dashed certain.
I suppose not.
Of course. There can be no suggestion of that being the reason I'm leaning towards guilty here, obviously.
Obviously. But honestly, I really wish he'd pay more attention to the trial, and less to juror number 2. Wait, what? Okay, that's weird. Okay, I'm going to try just presenting half of the crime scene.
Hold it!
It's alright, we have to kind of button mash here. Apologize if anyone is light sensitive.
Excuse me.
Okay, now we have to mash through this. So before we do this, I just realized we haven't really taken the time for a detailed look here. So I do just want to see. Okay, clocks look the same. Books, scales, candlestick. So I'm looking at the back of the desk at this point. All that looks... Yeah, the desk looks the same. Or the back of the desk looks the same. What about the front? Obviously, there's the broken lamp. You know what might be the most bizarre detail here? And I do wonder if it's just, like, a mistake almost, because I can't imagine why this would be the case. Look back here at the door. So look at the door in this picture. Now look at the same door in this one, and suddenly we can see the cubby. Wait, so is that little flap not there prior? I wonder... Okay, this is a really bizarre thing to try and bring up. Iris invented a thing earlier that allowed you to make a cat flap anywhere. And that's the only thing I can think of that would explain how how suddenly there was a flap in the door that people could look through. Which means it would have been made by, presumably, Gina while she was getting in, or in order to have something to shoot out of. How about this print here?
Take that!
Alright then, juror number 3. Are you saying you can do this with any 2 suitable photographic prints? Of course I am. Very well then, I'd like you to demonstrate. I'd be delighted to. Just give me one more print and I'll amaze you all. I mean, I feel like this is wrong because these were taken at 2 different times, but I'm just going to try and present here. Alright, these 2 prints were both taken with the same camera and window bay. Oh, he's going to point out the issue with them being from the same camera, and he's going to ask for the secondary photo from that time. Got it. Yes, I see. Tell me, Mr. Lawyer, do you know how stereographic images work? Or stereoscopic images work? Stereographic. Do you understand the principle? Well, I think so. I did have a lesson only yesterday. The left and right eye images need to be the same, only with a slight shift in the positions of some objects. Ah, he misunderstood. They need to be the same, only with a slight shift in the perspective of the camera. Then when your brain merges the two images together inside your head, it notices the shift as if it were depth. Yes, exactly. It's that small shift between certain objects in the two pictures that's really important. So what happens if you use two photographs that are exactly the same? No, obviously that wouldn't work at all. Not for seeing the scene three-dimensionally, anyway. Oh! Of course, now I see. Ah, I think the young girl has discovered the secret. I have! Can you uncross your eyes before you tell me? Have another look at these two pictures from Hurley's camera, Runo. Go on. No, that's not what we need, though. Can you see that there's a really obvious difference between them? Of course there is. There are two people in the first and no people in the second. Well, yes, you can see that straight away, but now try looking at the picture in 3 dimensions. Alright, I'll give it a go. So to start with, you have to cross your eyes, try to make the two pictures overlap exactly. Let's see if by crossing my eyes, blah blah blah. We're just going to be called on to point out the differences. Wait. Well, did you manage to see it properly, Runo? I feel like I have to answer not really here because, frankly, this isn't how it works. I'm just not very good at this, that's the trouble. Oh, don't worry, I have just the thing. I happen to bring with me a portable stereoscope. You know, I mentioned this yesterday, but if you've had that contraption with you from the outset, you could have saved me staring at Mr. Windibank and Gina like I hate them all the time. And if you remember, I said in reply that it's much more satisfying to be able to see the effect with your own eyes. Okay. Here goes. See, this isn't useful, though. Now let's see what we've got. Wait, look at that. What's going on with these two pictures? Some of the things on the counters sort of jump out at you. Yes, that's it, you see. That's the other amazing power of stereoscopes. Other amazing power?
Is someone going to explain this black magic, eh? What the deuce do some of the things on the counter seem to jump out at you like that,
I think you'll find that if you consider the basic principle of the stereoscope, you'll answer your own question. Basic principles of the stereoscope? As I said before, if you try to look at two identical pictures using a stereoscope, it won't work at all. It's the slight shift in the positions of certain objects that lets you see the pictures three-dimensionally. In other words, even though at first glance it seems the objects... Oh, they moved. Wait, what? I am really confused here, actually, now. Are we saying that, like, the counter moved? Or the objects on top of it, I guess? But why would that be the case? That makes so little sense. Even though at first glance it seems the objects on the counter haven't moved at all between the two pictures, this shows that actually there must have been a slight shift in their positions. Yes, there must have been. Really? Everyone in the courtroom is cross-eyed.
Now, hold fire there, sir. Got a reasonable grasp of the whole cross-eyed business now, I say. But what the devil does this shift between those two... But why the devil does this shift between those two prints exist in the first place? Well, what's the answer, fellow? Come on, you're the cross-eyed master.
What, me? I haven't the first idea. You know, Runo, it's quite simple. It is? Just think it through step by step. The first photograph was taken at 1 a.m. Then, 30 minutes later, the second photograph was taken. So we're going to ignore the obvious differences between them and instead focus on this whole stereoscopic image concern. But the position of some items on the counter appears to have shifted slightly in the interim. So that means that sometime in the half-hour interval, someone must have tampered with the things on the counter.
Zucus.
Someone tampered? New information. Stop. Not mentioned in the testimony so far. Stop. Yes. We've had to go around in circles a little here, it seems. But I'm starting to see what I should be aiming at in this summation examination now. Ladies and gentlemen, the question now is clear. We know the items on the countertop were moved, but by whom?
Are you suggesting you might know?
Of course. I can tell you right now who was responsible for the almost imperceptible shift of the items on the counter. I mean, the obvious answer is the criminals. Oh, hi, Baron Van Zeeks. I mean, the obvious explanation would be Ginny as well, but I'm going to go with these guys. And if I'm wrong, it was the witnesses currently in the stand, the Skulkin brothers.
Wait, this does not agree with what brothers said in testimony before. They said they did not even have time to pull dukes from Lucy Lockets. My phrasebook says dukes is meaning hands and Lucy Lockets is meaning pockets.
So you were able to look that up, but you weren't following the rest of the conversation. How does that phrasebook contain Cockney slang, Cockney rhyming slang, or no, just Cockney slang, but not get you through basic English? Also, stop squishing the mouse. Stop squishing Ringo. Yes, I've named the mouse. I'm emotionally attached to him now. No!
But is this another lie? Is this what you are saying?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Now hold on there a minute, you can't be sure of that.
I quite agree. The accused is a common pick purse, after all. It's perfectly possible that she went through the things on the desk to see what she might steal. I think that's unlikely.
And why exactly?
As you can see from this photographic print, the defendant was pointing a gun at the victim. It would seem, as my learned friend indicated, that she was coercing Mr. Windibank to open the storeroom door. In other words, Miss Lestrade's interests lay within the storeroom, not in the main shop, giving her no reason to touch anything on the counter. All of which points to one thing. The Skulkin brothers have omitted key facts in their testimony. But the accused is a pickpurse, common gutter trash. Why look any further for the wrongdoer here? Because the Skulkin brothers are thieves, madam. No better, in fact worse, than a pickpurse. I believe that these brothers were looking for something on the victim's counter that night. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you would condemn the defendant on the grounds that she's a pickpocket, would it not be at least right and proper to thoroughly scrutinize the testimony given against her by two thieves?
Well said. I, for one, would like to hear more from that shady pair.
Did he use his head before? I didn't see the first time around. Can you all see now? I think you'll find stereoscopes aren't playthings. You've seen their extraordinary potential firsthand. Wholeheartedly agree. Stop. Must purchase after the trial. Stop. Will return home via Regent Street. Stop.
Well, it would seem this trial has yet to run its course. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury have declared their inclinations via the mighty scales of justice. I hereby call this summation examination to conclusion, with the balance altered in the defendant's favor. 2 lean to guilty, 4 lean to not guilty. Accordingly, the jury is without consensus, and I order this trial to continue.
Yay, well done. Oh, by the way. What? You should hold on to this, Bruno. You never know what it might come in useful. Twice in one trial would be unusual, surely, but alright. Stereoscope has been entered into the court record.
Lord Van Zeeks, you will instruct the witnesses that the court demands additional testimony from them.
He's going to smash it, isn't he?
I'm sure it won't spoil the bouquet to do so, my lord.
I've won myself another chance to probe that pair about their activities that night, at least. And I won't stop probing them until I've proven that Gina is innocent. Exactly, be gentle to Mouse. Ringo did nothing wrong. Wait, is Ringo the name of one of the thieves? I may need to change names. That might be why Ringo was the first name I thought about. It's a bit too early to call the stream there, so we'll keep going a bit longer. I'm sure there's more to it. Suppose we could always call him Jerry if Ringo is the name of one of the thieves. It is the name of one of the thieves. Okay, he's Jerry. Okay, so we have a stereoscope in the court record now. And when you look through the eyepieces, you can see the image in 3D. Important thing to get right is the position of the two prints. I don't know who came up with the idea of a stereoscope, but it's really quite fascinating. It's totally changed shape from one little button press. That's what the button's for, Runa. Just like Hurley, you boys love pressing buttons, don't you? Especially if you don't know what they do. I mean, come on, can you blame him? Us boys? Says the 10-year-old girl. Anyway, now you can see that it really is a stereoscope, can't you? So I imagine that now that it's here, if we examine here, we can pick the photos. Or maybe it's just in specific in-game events. Wait. Oh, that's interesting. It changed shape. Nope, it didn't. Alright.
Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. I presume you heard the defense counsel's summation examination.
Oh, yeah, Governor.
I did, Gov, I did.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. I keep wanting to read that as Mr. and Mrs., but then I'm like, nope, these are brothers. This is not a couple, despite the number of couples we've had on the stand in this game. I mean, unless they've gone full Alabama, in which case, yeah, I don't know what's going on here at that point. Go. This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windibanks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, wasn't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers... God, blimey. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out?
You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time you will tell the truth. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crashing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. Oh, a thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov. We hear you. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach. Illegal entry, the whole truth. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we don't want rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump, and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, he didn't have to give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter would come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it, and scarpered straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windibank's countertop on the night in question.
Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry. By their own admission, his brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled upon hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess. Way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't you make us sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be a coincidence that these two men showed up at Windibanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye, I'm sure of it. Legal entry, the whole truth. And we'll mash buttons through this before saving. Stuck everything back where you found it. Scarpered straight into the guy in black. I think the last comment is definitely going to be the big one. Alright. Where's this going next? I think we're just going to wind up pressing on everything, though.
Hold it!
If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo, me old China. We'd only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble. That's rotten luck, says the rotten apple eater.
Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter?
We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash? More like we tidied the place up.
Sorry.
Hold it!
So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter. Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright. Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big bruv here screamed like a bloomin' lady and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. You've really mastered working quietly, then. What a racket. My granny would have been scared back into a grave like that. So again, they're talking about that stuff right there. However, obviously some other things were affected. And I imagine at some point in this process this is going to come up. The fact that the broken lamp is nowhere near the rest of it, and I imagine that this issue with the door is going to come up a good bit later. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, bam.
Excuse me.
Ooh. Oh. I dropped my water bottle. Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something?
It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details.
How about you just tell us what's on your mind?
As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now.
Did it?
You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot.
Might have, Gov, might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it.
Right. It's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, fellas. If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishments to bear against them.
Easy, easy. We'll get it right this time. That's it, yep. It's all coming back to me now.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details you have miraculously returned to your questionable mind, sirs.
Right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun."
Hold it!
So in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov. That we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yelling all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. Bam! Kind of thing. A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from, could you tell? Of course we could. From the other side of that door beyond the counter it was. From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windebank? On me granny's life, course it was. On his granny's life, course it was. You're brothers, you have the same granny. So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windebank and the sound of his voice? So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas?
Yes, Counsel, indeed it would.
Ooh, I'll be honest, I would have missed that detail. It's always funny, because, like, a lot of this is usually pretty obvious, and you throw out some wild guesses, and about 50 to 70% of them are usually right. But then sometimes the game breaks out some detail that you definitely would have missed.
Nah, we didn't know the geezer. No, sure, I mean, I may have been, responsible for holding a knife to his throat once, so, I don't know, maybe killed his mother, but no, we didn't know the geezer. I mean, I'd only been to the last 3 of his birthday parties, and how well can anyone really know a person? Honestly. How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke in the fancy club has given us the evil eye? If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. I am obviously threatening you, but I will get away with it, and then I will suck your blood. Perhaps drain a bit to add to my drink for court. Bleh, On my granny's life it is. On his granny's life it must be. It's a good job his granny's dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim you hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget, we tied you up after that good little wars. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke what owned the place was holding the gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling that girl. You'd think that at some point in this process we would have had Gina explain what actually happened that night in detail.
Hold it!
You're saying that Mr. Windebank had a gun in his hands. Oh yeah, but that was a sight, eh? The two of them waving guns at each other must have got pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot." Didn't really sound like he meant it, man. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Windebank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. His own, primarily. That someone being himself, of course.
Good grief, extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided.
Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night, only the person he was going to shoot beat him to it, cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of just wasting time shouting, "Gimme that gun." And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot. It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Gimme that gun. kind of thing. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed. And we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck, before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. Alright, well, I'm pretty sure we have something to present on now. Gina was holding when she was found unconscious.
Objection!
Really? I'm wrong?
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then?
Not on your life. It went deathly quiet after that, it did, put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, wasn't it? No way that was opening.
Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe.
It was, Gov, it was, from the inside.
Right, so we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Like through the keyhole, or spy hole, perhaps.
Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights.
We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day,
we'll really cut the mustard.
Please, cut it out. But as we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was there unconscious with the gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom? That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to. See, there's an obvious contradiction happening here, because they're claiming that two different people in there... They're claiming that Mr. Windibank was saying she would get shot if she didn't give him the gun, which suggests that there were 2 guns present in the room, and yet I'm struggling to see where to actually present the evidence, or what exactly the evidence was. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty. We was a bit hasty there. We was, naturally was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you got turned up.
If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand.
Good advice, miss, good advice. Truth be told, my mind went totally blank.
Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand.
Mental note made, miss.
After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or summit, so they clapped the darbies on us like winking. And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct?
Well, yeah.
But listen, that proves it, doesn't it, eh? We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never had the chance, did we? And why should we believe that?
What? Well, 'cause it's true, innit?
Okay, I think I might see the contradiction here. I think this might be surprisingly early, but the point to present this picture might be on that comment, because they definitely had the chance with that little cat flap there.
The place was totally empty when we went in. At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused, who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Windybank. Correct?
You got it, mister. Down to a T. So the Skulkin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Windybank? Is that really true, I wonder? That's it. That's the full extent of their testimony. What is it, Runo? You look very fierce. I can pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh, but I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It's nothing more than a feeling, though. I've no proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry? People's expressions, the movements of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in, and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you described. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about their testimony without knowing why, that's all. I think you should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. So there are exactly 2 places I could see realistically having something to present on, and we might just have to press on yeah, because we already tried presenting on this and that didn't work. So maybe we present on that. I think this is it.
Objection!
Nope, I'm wrong. That's the bizarre thing that happens sometimes. They're looking for something extremely particular in a way that doesn't really make sense when you've already gotten ahead of the process. Signs that a single round was fired.
Objection!
I think I just need to press on one of those statements again. It's either this one or the next one.
Hold it!
The sound of someone hitting the deck before everything went quiet. I have an idea here. Another idea. What if the fact is that he was shot in the back?
Objection!
Oh, yeah, that's a weird thing to present. So obviously they were presenting it as if he was lunging for the gun and then got shot, but there's no chance of that when he was shot in the back. But that's still a bizarre route to take this through. So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture? He has, Nash. He has, no question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not holding a firearm of any description. Eh? What? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right. There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windibank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that Molotooler used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun. Bam! Kenneth,
Hold it!
say exactly where you are. Right there. Eh? If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out.
Goodness, are you sure, counsel?
You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? The autopsy. According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot.
Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we were led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. I feel like they could have just said Skulkin Brothers instead of saying Mr. and Mr. It just feels so long-winded.
But it's the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes.
Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windibank holding a gun.
Something like that might have slipped out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Nash, Order. Witnesses, explain yourselves at once.
Well, the thing is, we weren't supposed to... It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
I'm ever so sorry, Governor.
truth is, see, cut it out, Nash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what he'll do to us.
He? Who are they talking about?
Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Rov, come on, game's up. You have our guts for guards.
In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well, do we have to?
On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth.
Encounter with the victim.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the old geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through the door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was encountered in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop? Well, yeah, sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably.
I mean, it seems to be in direct contradiction with this image. Because if she threatened him, and they went into the shop, also I'm kind of guessing that the fact that she's not actively pointing the gun at him is part of the censorship that this game went through when it went from Japan to America. I imagine that her arms were pointed forward in the original. That's just a guess. I have nothing to back it up, but it seems likely because they keep saying that she was pointing the gun at him ready to shoot, and she clearly isn't. But if she threatened him to get into the storeroom, then why was he outside the storeroom when they showed up?
But honest, Governor, this time, Ash, this time we ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Okay, but you don't need to look quite so wild-eyed. Encounter with the victim. Alright, so we... Hang on, I'm gonna let this all go through. I just like being able to skip text, and I'm bugged that there's not the option to do so in this game without having first let it scroll through at base speed. Thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windibank?
Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously, but we never thought no one was going to come out of the back room like that.
The back room being the pawnbrokery storeroom.
Yeah, that must be where it popped up from. Only place he could have been. So it would seem that the victim was already in the storeroom when the brothers entered the premises.
Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well. That doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windibank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived? Oh, I don't know. So, a bit of a side theory that I'm currently considering, not really set on it, but what if these two were employed by Mr. Eggs Benedict to try and retrieve the other music disc? Did you see the accused at that time?
What, that Molitolo? That Moltolo? That Moltula? Couldn't tell you.
I don't know how to say that.
What, that Moltula? Couldn't tell you. No way, Cobber. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Windibank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claimed that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door.
Oh, did we?
Well, the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he?
Well, yeah.
Was the victim, Mr. Windibank, wielding a gun at the time?
Was he ever? Blimey, lummy. Great ugly barrel he had, pointed straight at me frontispiece.
So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windibank with the gun at that time, is that right?
It is, Gov, it is spot on. Then all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going for who.
You were clearly all going for each other.
Like I said, we thought we'd had it. I mean...
Hold it!
Chucked you over the counter. Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony, too.
Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot.
Yeah, we already read this. So in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter? Nah, let him sweat. Unless you're talking about Ryu, in which case, yeah, probably. Or maybe just like a sweatband or a towel. Maybe that's why Kazuma always wore that headband. It was a sweatband.
Well, Big Bravia went flying over that counter like a gunshot, I can tell you. Then the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds. At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbroker. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim.
That's right, when the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they? Poor Mr. Windibank, he did everything he could to protect his shop.
I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windibank?
No, never. I was just, looking out for me bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget.
By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes.
And then, the man fled into the storeroom. Then you pointed your gun at him, is that it? Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away and ran off through that door and shot himself in.
There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true. I wonder why Mr. Windibank ran away into the storeroom. What? Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him with a gun. Ah, yes, that's right. Ginny allegedly used Mr. Windibank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Windibank's hands again? I have no idea, but that is strange, isn't it?
The point is, me and me brother here.
That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and me bruv here. So I have a feeling that was indicating that the last comment, the one before this, is going to be what we present on eventually, but I'm not sure what we're supposed to present on.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Didn't he? Locked it was from the inside. We know it was because we tried to open it. Well, it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could have possibly have shot the victim, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade.
It would indeed appear so.
Except, according to the witnesses, when he ran into the room, Mr. Windibank was the one with a gun.
What say you to that, counsel?
I don't know. Is there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Windibank? Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. What? What's that I look for? From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely.
It did? What is your point, my learned friend?
The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Windibank, and it is belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all.
You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts, so pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of two conundrums.
Two, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe?
Indeed, namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord. Are you all right, Runa? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely.
So now, time for some clarity. Show the courtroom on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun.
Okay, it's time to present my current theory and see if it works. I believe it was from back here.
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here.
And in answer to the second question. Assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time?
He was in the storeroom.
Take that!
The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom.
Continue.
Mr. Windibank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired?
So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom?
Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. If Mr. Windibank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. No, we don't. Guys, come on. There's a very obvious thing here. There's a cat flap in this at 1:30 am that was not there at 1 a.m. Come on. This isn't hard to figure out, guys.
Ah,
It was at precisely that moment, when the victim was fleeing for his life, that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety. Ah, of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory. So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windibank.
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claimed the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock?
Ah, but, what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door.
Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside?
Take that!
Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around our neck. I'm inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel?
Ah, yes. That's a tricky one, that, isn't it? There were people outside the courtroom with a gun.
Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please.
But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does? Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windibank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windibank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom.
Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom.
Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windibank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is what would the defendant have done in that moment?
I see where you're going with this.
Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windibank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But I mean, we ain't the ones who done it. We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on. We never shoot no one. You've been claiming to have shot Detective Sholmes this entire time.
Objection!
That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would, because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windibank's murder. And now they're finally going to tell the actual truth of what happened, because they are still lying.
Where does this leave us?
You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the man after all?
I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady as a dense forest.
That was amazing, Runa. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know, first time ever, and probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they have to give a verdict of not... No, because there is still an issue here. If that's what happened, how did... their gun that we have, at least, only fired one bullet. Which means either both brothers had a gun, or... we have to show that something else happened.
Bleh, One victim. Bleh, Two victims. An admirable effort, my learned friend.
I have also figured out part of why I struggle with some of these accents, where the R's kind of naturally roll just very slightly every time. For some reason, and I do not know why this is, I can only roll my R's on one side of my mouth. If I put my tongue to the left side of my mouth, I can roll my R's. I cannot do that on the right-hand side. Physically, it just doesn't happen. And in order to do it quickly like that in the middle of a word, you actually kind of have to be able to do it in the center, which means you have to be able to get both sides of your mouth to roll your R. Yeah. I find it very easy to do it on one side, but I can't do it on both sides, which means I can't get that quick R roll that seems to happen right at the front. Because my tongue is trying to dive to the left-hand side of my mouth. And that makes some of these quick roll R's really difficult, especially with the Transylvanian accent. I have to be thinking it through very carefully in order to make it sound right. He's laughing.
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zieks. I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive.
I dare say. Such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation. Thank you for the hydrate, last one. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. He has big words. What? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing?
I say, Lord Van Zieks, might be an idea to explain this bully conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground,
The fatal flaw in my learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets.
By George, count bullets.
Oh dear. He noticed then. Huh? What's everyone talking? Come on, dude, it's pretty obvious. You have multiple bullets in this scenario. Hang on. I think the easiest way to look at this would be here. We have the bullet with the unknown blood right here. And the bullet that led to Mr. Windibank's blood here. Now we're kind of making the assumption that this is Mr. Sholmes, in which case you have to ask, how did Mr. Sholmes get shot if it wasn't by these two? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir? Tell the court, how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime? Well, to be honest, only one. Two. 2 bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene.
Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windibank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun.
Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each.
Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Sherlock Sholmes right in front of your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find.
And if the single bullet that was fired from the brother's gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means...
Windibank not shot by the same gun, stop. Only 1 bullet, stop. Exactly. Yes, this Nipponese street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick, with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Like, the whole case is going to crack wide open as soon as I'm actually allowed to point out this. It really is. I just don't know when it's going to let me.
Order.
Pray, forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Do not fear. It is not alcoholic. It is merely blood. The blood of my enemies. Bleh,
Lord Van Zieks.
But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can regrettably no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. Yes, okay, we get to match that. What do you want to bet that's the green blood?
I'll be taking whatever it is of McGilda's down to the yard, thank you very much.
No, don't. Don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine.
I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now.
Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windibank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly does not belong to her, and with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence.
Good gracious.
Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused, on account of her years, is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril.
I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament to the defendant's character. Lord Van Zeeks,
Inspector Gregson? What?
Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that disc wouldn't be used as evidence.
What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeeks at all.
I am unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent.
Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord.
Indeed, bailiff.
Yes. The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. Ah, but we have new evidence. Oh, Bruno, look! This is blood. Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before. And it's my time to shine again. I thought I'd be waiting forever. Alright, hold still with that disc, Bruno. Can we get this done quickly, Iris? In a flash. It's gonna be green, isn't it? Yeah, I got it. Oh, a lovely bright shade again. Wait, that color. What is it? It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that color, is it? 4 samples of blood analyzed by a special chemical, blah blah blah. And now we go to the blood samples portfolio. Okay, hang on. We might have to examine that one more time. Well, deduce, but not just somebody's fingertip, Mr. Benedict's fingertip. Man dressed all in white? Yes, it happened that afternoon in Windibanks. Gina tried to snatch the disc out of the man's hand, and the sharp little bumps cut his thumb. So the lesson is, if somebody tries to grab a music box disc from you, let go quickly. The lesson is, don't snatch things, surely. I don't know how to cause it to make the connection. Like, it won't let me. I mean, it's going to come out in the course of the case, but I want to put things together now. So there is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decision and rest my case. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear. Wasn't even for 5 minutes, Runo. My lord.
My lord, I wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Mr. Foreman. Been stumbling about a bit in the fog up to now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer's bloody obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it.
Oh no.
Very well, the court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Great, we've got to do a whole extra summation examination before we can present our evidence.
We have a consensus among the jury, it seems.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. How dare he use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windibank. That's beyond any doubt. Very well.
Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day.
Love how he didn't even need to ask. He knows that I'm going to invoke my right to summation examination.
Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready? Garadeb's squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty.
Okay, we will save here, and that's actually where we're going to call it for tonight, because it is almost 10:30, and I'd like to leave myself time to go to the gym. And that seems like a really good place to break it off. Next time we get back, that'll be a nice time to review all of the evidence before using it, to point out the issues with their conclusions. So, yeah. I think that's a good place to stop. This has been a fun trial, I gotta say. Like, obviously there are things that in this game that are different about the ones that I'm familiar with. But I do still really enjoy it. And with these last two trials specifically, it's been cool to get into the convoluted facts of the case in order to prove stuff. And that's a big part of what I enjoy about this. So yeah, thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. Anyway, we will be back not this weekend. I've got stuff going on, so I won't be around this weekend to stream, but we will be back on Monday. I'd expect that we'll finish the game Monday or Tuesday. And I'm looking forward to it. So, in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed. Appreciate y'all. And I hope to see you next time. Later, folks.